Yeah, this is Common Sense PhD with Papa Keith and company. Yeah, this is Common Sense PhD with Papa Keith and company. Make it make sense. I love it when they bring the soul to the beat. They telling me to stay inside, it's not safe in the streets. Got black babies dying, I see blood on the leaves. If I see a devil, I might just take off the sheets. Do what I do to live my life. I care less about these dudes who just sit online and type, who love to criticize and say, what would you do for the price? In the same breath saying what you do with your life, what you do to survive. Cause most of y'all don't make it, while the rest is sitting at home and scared to take it. The life we lead is not one you can fake it till you make it. And I can't lie, that's why I laugh when they be hating. They so far removed, they still debate on who the best. But the real know that the best don't have to flex. You might not ever hear a bar or see the check. See the fake will never see you unless you step. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Yeah. This is Common Sense PhD. Make it make sense.
All right. What's up? Welcome to another edition of Common Sense PhD, where we make it make sense. I'm your host, Papa Keith, and I got my very special guest in the building. He goes by the name of Check Noel, a.k.a. Self-Checkout. Let me just give you a little bio. He didn't send me a bio. I created my own bio for him. So
I appreciate that.
No problem. I hope you're not offended. You shouldn't be. It's all love with you and I. But Kevin Samuel comparisons get thrown around a lot these days because apparently every man with a microphone and an opinion becomes the next somebody. But Check from Self-Checkout carved out his own lane by bringing relationship conversations, accountability, and self-awareness and modern dating discussions to social media without turning every conversation into a disrespectful Olympics. Known for his calm delivery, practical takes, and common sense over chaos approach, Check has built a growing audience by discussing relationships, masculinity, communication, and personal growth in a way that challenges people without tearing them down. His content connects because it feels more like a real conversation than a viral ambush clip engineered to ruin Thanksgiving dinner. He's a perfect fit for Common Sense PhD, honestly. Welcome, my guy, my brother, Check Noel.
That's one hell of an intro, man. That's probably the best one I'm ever going to get.
Oh, man, it's all love. It's all love. It's all love. So before I get into my questions, I want to give you an opportunity. Obviously, I gave my bio on you, but I want you to have an opportunity to explain to my audience, how you got involved with creating this influencer platform for yourself where you pretty much grab videos, mostly of women that are talking about their challenges or their delusion or whatever the case may be with men, and you really break it down on a common sense kind of a way, which, like I said, is just so perfect for what I'm trying to do here. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so I think ultimately my goal was to figure out a way to combine giving people information while also holding you accountable. Now, I didn't start out that way. My first step was to just better men, to give you guys advice on in what direction to go in while dating. And over time, it evolved into something a bit bigger, I would say. And now here I am. But yeah, now it's become a conversation, like you mentioned earlier, where I can honestly just give you my honest take about what may or may not be happening in your dating life.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, I enjoy it. I became a fan instantly. Of course, I give you the comparison to Kevin Samuels. I call you the young Kevin Samuels, but there is a difference between the both of you. He was very brash and he could come across very disrespectful, where, based on a few things he may learn about the women, where you're giving these women an opportunity to express themselves on social media in the way they choose to, and you're taking their own opinions and using it against them in that regard, which, clearly is a difference, All right, so listen, my first question for you, brother, is Why do you think common sense relationship advice feels rare in today's dating culture?
I think social media has created a space where you can be anybody. You can say anything, you can do anything, and you'll have an audience of some sort.
Hmm.
And especially online, there's no real consequence to it. So I can get online and say, you know what, I am the most attractive man in the world, and I don't have to actually accomplish or show that I am. And if there's 100,000 people that believe that, I'm gonna ultimately believe it. And so now you got people that have created their own platform. If they have gathered their own following, and they just have their own thoughts and opinions. But it all boils down to, can you actually produce what you are saying? For most people,
Wow.
they don't. But that audience, that audience tells them, yeah, like they can. I'm like, and people like us are waiting around, like, okay, well, you said you're this person we want to see. But I
Yeah.
think that that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's the audience.
Got you. Social media has made dating more public than ever, since we're
Yes,
talking about social media and relationships. Has Instagram helped relationships or damaged them more?
I think to the naked eye, you would say damage.
Hmm.
Um, for the people that have used it correctly, I would say help. Um, social media is,
Yeah, I was about to ask you to draw those comparisons.
yeah, it
Hmm.
was designed to connect people. So
Hmm.
dating obviously was going to be a component of it at some point.
Hmm.
Um, the only difference is we see the negative parts are more public than the positives, for good reason. Because if you ask me, if I do find someone amazing online and we have a healthy and functioning relationship, that's not something I want to share with the internet, because they're going to find every which way to tear it apart. And now we're dealing with issues we never signed up for. So the people that are successful, with social dating, they don't say much. And I've met a number of them. And I'm like, it's the right way to go about it, because the internet isn't nice.
Yo, that is so true. I chime in on a lot of these because a part of doing this podcast for me is therapeutic, and I don't get to have these conversations on the radio. So so I get to chime in on this conversation and give my take on it. So I always felt that same way. I'll start with like my kid, right? My daughter. If I post my daughter, you think that's my daughter? I'm proud of her, all these different things. If I post my daughter Jasmine and somebody posts, look at that black little monkey.
Hmm.
I can't unsee that check. You know what I'm
Yeah, yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So I have to understand that if I do that and if I'm in the public eye, I have to be vulnerable to those things happening. So obviously, like I want to avoid that as much as possible. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a birthday or even not. Like, I can tell her. I don't have to go to social media. It's not
Exactly.
my end all be all. In terms of relationship, I've been in a past relationship where, they felt the way that I didn't, post them. You know what I mean? And they were like, well, I post you. And so my first thing was like, well, you have 1,000 followers. I have 30,000 at that time. So, so you posted me to your 1,000 and me
Yeah.
posting to 30,000 is a big comparison. Let's start with that. And then, my other, point was that, you know, what's the like what do you want to get out of it? Like is it like because you want people to know that we're together or do you understand that's only going to make it worse?
Yeah. It's just external validation. That's all it is. They want to be able to say, and given, they may in fact be proud of who they are with, which is
Right,
perfectly
right,
fine.
right.
But I think if I had to give any advice to anybody, things that you care about the most, don't share with the world, because the moment they don't treat it the way you think they should be treating it, it's going to become a huge issue. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what's up. What's the biggest mistake men are making in modern relationships right now?
the biggest mistake, I would say, steering away from who you truly are as a man. Sometimes we meet a woman, we want her so badly that we are willing to negate the things that make us who we are. It's those difficult conversations. It's doing things you don't really want to do. And then you start doing those things, and ultimately the rainy day comes, And now you're like, well, I didn't want to do all these things. I did it for you. Is you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. If you're going to support somebody in a certain way, be who you normally are, and if they can't accept you for that, then you ain't really got much to stand on.
That's a fact. For me, I think it's a level of authenticity that is being lost right now. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. So it's in similar fashion to what you're saying, but just more so like staying true to yourself and being comfortable with that. I think because of social media, again, social media is obviously going to be a big target for us today. But because of that, we tend to look at what other people are doing and want to be able to say like, all right, well, this must be right because all of these people are doing it, when we know to ourselves it's not natural and we're not saying true to ourselves. If you don't enjoy doing something, why not just be upfront about it versus pretending like you're enjoying it when you're not?
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's a tough one. Like you said, if you really like someone, you try to, bend and kind of make space for them, but where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I think that there is a line to be drawn because you compromise in every relationship to some degree. But I think when you start losing yourself is where you gotta have that wake up call and say, I can't do this. Because you want to be accepted for who you truly are, not for you who you pretend to be for that person. Because eventually those tricks that you pulling out the bag, you're gonna run out eventually. And then when that moment comes, because she's gonna notice, or well, you was, bouquet of roses every dinner date, and black cars and all this stuff, and then money get tight one day because you was living a lifestyle you couldn't afford. It becomes an issue because to some degree she has a point where you gave me these things. Yeah, I desired it, but if you couldn't have delivered, you should have said that. So it's that costume that a lot of men wear just for that validation or that woman's attention, and I don't think it's worth it in the long run.
That part. What's the biggest mistake women are making right now?
For the men that are honest, they don't accept it. They
Mm,
they don't accept men for who they are. They accept them for who they want them to be. And
mm,
that's literally the biggest issue. I see it a million times over where you'll see a guy and I'm like, he's exactly who we all thought he was. But in her mind, he's an angel. He's gonna be my knight in shining armor. And then time passes and he shows his true colors. And it's like, how did you not see this?
mm,
And
mm.
but everybody has their stories.
Do you think too a part of it is that when people like we just said about the men wanting the women so bad, for the women's perspective, do you believe when they just want love or they want this type of relationship so bad that they do become delusional and trip into those type situations?
Without a doubt. And I think that's men and women both. We ignore a lot of the red flags because we want something so badly, disregarding the fact that this is a marathon, not a race. Yeah, it's going to feel good in the beginning, but once that spark fades, and what are you standing on? What's the basis of this relationship? You didn't get into it for the right reasons. So now you're going to face Lord knows what kind of issues down the road. And you're going to figure out, well, we're going to think to yourself, well, where did this come from? Not realizing you was building that issue from the very beginning by not accepting that person for who they were.
Mm, mm. What would you say is a good amount of time to be able to vet a real relationship? Like a good amount of, what would you say would be a good amount of time to know exactly what you have based on what you just said?
I think it depends on how much time you invest in getting to know this person, but how well you can read between the lines. Because you're not always going to ask the right questions. So you have to manage and figure out another way to understand this person, especially when you guys are not effectively communicating. And their actions say a lot about who they are. So if there is friction and they decide, what, I want to go and, I don't know, sleep with somebody else, that tells you who this person is without actually having to ask them, hey, would you do this to me? It's clear. Um, so I think, yeah.
Do you give a time limit when like, personally, do you have like a certain time where you say, all right, I need this amount of time to be able to really know?
Personally, no, but I think going back to her actions will determine if I'm going to move further or if I'm just going to
Mm,
call it quits. Because if you
yeah.
give me something to go off of, then great, we can continue as long as we need to continue to figure out what needs to be what. But um, if she doesn't give me anything to go off of, I can't.
That's what's up. My number is 6 months. In 6 months, I believe. No, for real.
So
In
okay, wait,
six,
6 months for a committed relationship, or what are we? What is it exactly?
yeah, for 6 months for like I wouldn't say a committed relationship. I would say 6 months to know exactly what I have.
Okay.
6 months because you've been through the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like I need to get in an argument with you. I need to see how you deal with conflict resolution.
Yeah.
I need to see all of these different things to know like if you're a person that I should invest on the long haul with. So to me, it takes at least 6 months, like to the day check. 6 months, you'll know exactly what you have. And it's either you move in delusion and believe you don't have what you have because you just want it, or
Yeah.
you're gonna know to yourself like this is what it is, you know?
Sure. I think that's a reasonable amount of time. If you ask me,
Mhm.
I think that's fair. And this is 6 months of consistency. This is 6 months of
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
really trying to understand one another.
yeah.
I think that's the separation with that timeline for most people is like they'll say something like, "Well, I got 6 months," or "You got 6 months," and they're not actively trying to understand this person. It's like you're not giving them a fair shot. The 6 month time frame doesn't make sense. So, but if you're actively doing what you're supposed to do, that makes perfect sense to me.
That's what's up. Do you think people are dating for love anymore or mostly for lifestyle and validation?
To say how much people, well, not how much, but to say exactly what people are looking for. Everybody's agenda is a little different. Um, and I think if we use that 6 month time frame, you'll understand exactly what they're truly looking for, whether it be true companionship, true commitment, or they just here for a lifestyle and an experience. To say
That's
which side is, if you look on social media, you'll say most people are dating for the experience. If that's because that's I'm thinking about it to myself and I'm like, okay, what sources? I haven't met 100,000 people, but I'm sure I've seen Lord knows how many videos online where people are dating for all the wrong reasons.
definitely. We see too much of that,
Yeah,
to be
you
honest
gotta be
with you.
careful, man.
How important, I know you're from Haitian descent, so you should
Yes,
have no problem answering this. How important is emotional intelligence for men today, especially in Black and Caribbean communities where emotions weren't always openly discussed?
that's your currency nowadays as a man. You got to
Mm,
learn to control yourself in every facet possible, especially while dating. No matter what happens, if you lose control, you lose entirely. No matter what happened to you, she could have cheated, she could have did Lord knows what. But if you lose your cool, there's nothing to stand on. No matter what
mm,
story you tell, people are not going to hear it because it's like, okay, she cheated on you, but why did you hit her? She cheated on you. Why did you emotionally starve her? Why did you, whatever the case may be? I think
mhm.
losing your cool, you lose all leverage. And whether we admit to it or not, relationships are about some form of leverage. I'm
Mm.
becoming this person to be able to negotiate with you and say, hey, this is what I desire from you. And I think you should give it to me. And then in turn, I'm going to give you something back.
That's what's up. You challenge people on your Instagram page without insulting them, right? For the most part.
Sometimes,
For
sometimes
the
I have my
most
way.
part. For the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part. What are you crazy? For the most part. But to me, in comparison, if I'm calling you the young Kevin Samuels, why is
Yeah.
respect important when having difficult conversations online?
Because if you ever do see my video, I want you to understand that we can talk about our differences. Now, given most people that do respond, they either whether they send me a DM or even make a video, if you get online, and given I understand the space I've created by making the video. But if I didn't disrespect you in the video and you make a response by disrespecting me, there's nothing to talk about because you've already broken a barrier of respect. So, um, how do I put this? If you come to me respectfully, you'll get respect. If not, then it is what it is. Can't do nothing with that.
Got you. What's one dating standard you think is reasonable and one that has become completely unrealistic?
Oddly enough, the standard I'm going to name is exact. They fall under both categories. because
Okay.
a woman wanting a man to provide is a realistic standard. Now, how much is where it becomes unrealistic. Because when you tell me you want a guy that makes $500,000 a year, what percentage of men make that? And if you think you can obtain him, why haven't you already? What spaces do you think this man is in where you feel like you can actually obtain him? What have you experienced in life? So yeah, it's one and the same.
Do you think that um that level of delusion that some women may have, do you think they get that from the television shows they watch, from social media? What do you think has caused that level of delusion where majority of your videos are women expressing things that are just not realistic?
I would say a large part of it is social media, and obviously the things that they watch, the people they surround themselves with. Um, but women are going to want what they want. This is not like our generation of women are not the first generation to be delusional. You've always had this. I think the stage is bigger now because if you make a video, you can reach somebody in France and that influenced them to think whatever it is that you're thinking. I think, if anything, it's just the fact that there's more eyes and ears on that one message instead of it being within your community.
With a lot of the posts that you run through on your social media page, what percentage of that are real situations versus clickbait? Like people just making up stories and just saying things just to get a reaction from others?
That's a good question. If I had to take a wild guess, I would say 75% of what I post are people's real thoughts and feelings, and 25% is just rage bait and them trying to get some kind of traction. And when I do pick up on that, I try to mention in the video, like, I don't believe this person. They're probably just doing this for
Yeah,
likes and clicks. But yeah, I think it's 75-25, if I had to take a guess.
got you. Do you think there's any hope uh, based on what all these videos that you've gone through? At this point, how many videos have you gone through?
I have no idea. I want
I
to
mean,
say over a
because
thousand at this point.
definitely, because you do multiple a day.
Yeah, definitely. I have no idea. I've done so many videos. It's crazy.
So seeing thousands of these videos of women, in most of them having these unrealistic expectations of men, how does the future look for relationships between men and women, in your opinion?
I don't think I don't think it's very different from what we've been experiencing. People get online and say what they want to say, and then they go out into the world, and most of them don't practice what they preach on those videos.
Mm,
So it's just a separation where you got to understand they're gonna portray whatever they want to portray online, but when you meet them face to face, it's a completely different experience. Um, Before social media, at least relationships on social media, before it became what it was, I remember years ago, I was fresh out of college. I DM'd the girl. She was attractive. Things were going. I mean, things didn't go great because she left me on red. But sometime later, I was at a party and I met her at the party. Obviously, she's attractive, so she gets a lot of guys in her DMs. But the experience I had with her in person was completely. In my mind, I'm like, she don't even know she left me on red. But here
right.
we are at this party, and she's showing me all kinds of attention, and I'm like, this is interesting. They're one way online, but when you see them face to face, it's a completely different experience. So yeah, I think there's definitely, as long as you do what you're supposed to do, there's hope. But if you
Got
think
you.
you're gonna cut corners and I don't have to be anybody, I can just be whoever I want to be and they're gonna accept me, I think that's where the problem will arise.
I learned something from the late Triple X Tentacion.
Mhm.
I had the opportunity to interview him. Actually, it's on YouTube. It's a 45-plus minute interview, man. We went into all kind of stuff, but he said something that opened up my eyes years ago. Obviously, when
Mhm.
he was around, he said that young people go to social media to heal. They go to social media to vent. So, to the point we were just saying, I think a lot of what you're getting, they're trying to heal by venting. And yes, you're able to kind of pick what they say apart because they don't even have their thoughts together properly. They're just
Yeah,
like regurgitating and not making much sense out of what they're saying, but they feel like they're getting some kind of therapy or healing from that. And I
yeah.
can't be a hypocrite. I started off saying that Common Sense PhD and even my other show, quick plug on Thursdays, R&B therapy, where I play R&B, is therapeutic for me. So I'm coming to social media, to heal, you know what I mean, to vent. So I get it.
I think there's definitely ways to go about that because it's definitely true. What he said was 100% facts. Um, but the way you deliver that message is where the issue can lie. When you just get online and say anything and expect people not to hold you accountable for what you said is that's the problem. I think they get online and just expect people just to agree. And the moment somebody disagrees and they say exactly why, now it's you hate women, why are you like this, so on and so forth.
That part. How much pressure does social media put on relationships financially?
Lot. Oh man. I think that's probably the worst part of it. It's those unrealistic expectations of how much someone is supposed to have by the time you meet them. Like I did kids just graduated college thinking, oh yeah, if I'm dating somebody, he got to make six figures. I'm thinking like when I graduated college, what was I make? I can't even remember. It wasn't a lot. And I'm like, given I didn't have to deal with what these kids have to deal with now, but even if I did, I don't think I would fold underneath that pressure where it's like, I'm not going to overextend myself for your validation. And I think that's also another message I would want to push to the young kids where don't overextend yourself prematurely. If you overextend yourself, it's to save a marriage, it's to save your family, something like that, that has real substance, real value. But someone you just meeting at a party, at a bar, it's not worth it.
For real. Um, you know, when you look at people posting their meals and posting going to Cactus and all the new
Hmm.
restaurants and stuff like that, it is a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I remember one time, you know, this chick, I wanted to just do something nice and take her out for her birthday. I wasn't even smashing or nothing. And I said, "Hey, where do you want to go?" And she was like, "Prime 112." And so I was like, that's the first time I ever felt like a meal ticket for real.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I said, let me ask you a question, because I'm the same way too. I'm blunt and I speak how I feel, and I know when the pump breaks. So I said, have you been there before? She's like, no. I was like, well, so you don't take your own money and go to Prime 112, but you want me to take my money and take you to Prime 112. So obviously I did not go based off of principle.
Yeah.
Like, just the audacity, maybe the how brave she was to be able to say that to me,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and actually mean it and be okay with that. So yeah, there's a lot of because a lot of guys will fold if they really like a girl. They'll think with lack of education, they'll think these are the things we have to do to court, a woman in this time.
If there's one thing I've learned over my 30 plus years of life, when a woman likes you, you ain't got to do much. You don't. It's not that you don't have to treat her nice. It's not that you don't have to give her experiences and show her the world and take her to nice dinners. But out the gate, you don't have to do much. If you go into Target, she want to be there with you. It doesn't mean much. Um, but unfortunately, everybody's not going to either gain that experience or believe in it. Because a lot of men are like, nah, I saw my dad do X, Y, and Z, and this is all I know, and it's all I
Mhm.
can rely on. And they're afraid to take that leap of faith because in their mind, what if I take that leap and I lose her? Not understanding what the population is on Earth. Lord knows how many people. Like, with all due respect, you're gonna find so many more of her if you just work on yourself. But that's always a hard message to deliver because people only respect what they can see right in front of them.
Ah, ah,
Yeah.
big talk right there. All right. Listen, everybody's trying to date like they're in a music video with a crypto scam budget. uh, what do you think men and women actually understand each other less now, despite being more connected online?
I think it goes back to us not accepting who we are, but who we want each other to be.
Mm,
You can you can meet any man or any woman, and in your mind, this is what they're supposed to be doing. And when they don't, immediately you're disappointed and thinking something's wrong with them, not understanding, no, this person just doesn't fit that mold or that frame that you created in your mind or
mhm.
wherever you learned that from. And that's where it goes back to getting to know this person and giving it an honest opportunity to get to know them. Most people are not really getting to know one another. It's like, I think I did a video the other day where a woman was like, if we're talking 3 or 4 months, we got to go on a trip. And I was like, "Y- you don't know him. Like this doesn't make much sense to me. Or there's women that get online and say, oh, if you get my number, you got a week to plan a date. No, you are expediting the experience, the process, and then they wonder why they end up in really difficult situations where they be on a trip with a guy they don't really like, or on a dinner date, and they're like, "Oh, I'm stuck here." And it's like, if you would have taken your time to get to know this man, you'd realize going on a date with him just isn't worth it, and you don't even have to meet up to really get to know him. But here we are.
You know what I find interesting as well too? A lot of times you see that because women are competing with other women.
Yes.
So a lot of times you see that because women, your friends are selling you dreams. They're telling you or allowing you to believe that they have it on their popping and they have it like that, and they really don't. But because they're telling you that, you're putting pressure on someone else to create that type of lifestyle that they're pretending they're getting. And it causes you to lose in the end in a lot of situations, you know? It's crazy. What role does accountability play in healthy relationships?
I think in a healthy relationship, I don't think there's one number one thing. I think there's just a even line where accountability, respect, discipline, so on and so forth, where they all sit together. I don't think I think if you lack accountability, whether it be on both ends or just one end, it's too unbalanced to continue forward. Because then you're never wrong. You never contribute to the downfall of this relationship, and you're not perfect, so it's impossible to never be wrong. So I think the quicker or sooner you can notice if someone lacks it or not and possibly fix it, the better off you'll be.
Oh, for sure. Um, my thing with accountability is lack of growth. So you know, listen, I don't know what a person has been through prior to meeting me, so I like to give people like a little room to grow with me. You know what I'm saying in
Yeah,
that regard.
they got 6 months.
But yeah.
They, they're gonna figure it out in 6 months, or else.
Hey, check. But it's a real thing. I look at not having accountability as a lack of growth, because I've always been able to brag that even as a Caribbean man, and I'm not machismo. I listen to others and what they have to say because it allows me to grow. I may pick up on things that I didn't know, or they may be showing me something like, I didn't think of it that way. I didn't see it that way. You know what I'm saying? So I actually appreciate when somebody puts me on versus getting defensive and lacking accountability because it allows me to grow. Like, I can't just walk around in this life feeling that everything that know and I experience is it. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? I want to be able to be open to other people's opinions and things of that nature to be able to say, yo. And then if they're able to show me that and I can look at it and they're giving me the points, I have no problem saying, you know what, you're right. Or you know what, my bad. I didn't see it that way. But I don't know if it's with my personality. I
Yeah, I
seem
mean,
to like really have a hard time with, getting accountability from women.
got you. I think number one, that's very mature of you, and I think that's exactly why you're going to continue to grow and become better over time. Um, but the world doesn't hold women accountable. It's gonna be very
Mm.
difficult for them to run into you and listen to what you got to say. When you think about it, the average woman doesn't have to live a life of accountability. She does something wrong. If she breaks down crying, there's somebody that come to her defense. She can assault somebody in the street, and especially if it's a man and he swings back, the man is wrong. It's those small things over time before you know it's death by 1,000 cuts. Where yeah, it might be small right now, but then over time you realize how damaging this could possibly be. And don't get me twisted, because men, we have our own lane in that as well. But I think if no one teaches us, life will. I don't think it's the same thing for women.
Mm. Mm. You hear that? Y'all got a cheat code, ladies. But
Yeah, and that's just the way it is. I don't think that's something that'll ever really change. That's just something we got to learn to deal with and navigate around, or address it the best way we possibly can. I don't think that'll ever go away.
Okay. That's a good one, man. Let's get back to what you do, and for people who tuning in, we got Check here from Self Checkout. The S is a 5 on Instagram. Please follow him.
Thank
He takes videos from people venting about mostly relationship based situations. Some of it heavy delusional, some of them have some realistic points to it, but he breaks it down on a very common sense type of way. I don't know if he has any education in in psychology. I'm not sure.
At one point, I wanted to become a psychiatrist.
Look at that. Look at that. And you're doing it now, social media. But, so he's on with us today, and, just wanted to tap in with that. But with that being said, how do you handle backlash when people disagree with your takes online?
Like I mentioned earlier, it depends on what your approach is to me. If I didn't disrespect you in the video and the first thing you do is disrespect me, you're not getting a response from me. And honestly, 99% of people don't get a response from me. I've had conversations via DM like, this is what this is what I meant, and that person respond and say what they need to say, and we go our separate ways. For the most part, if I make 10 videos in a day, one might get a response, because like I've mentioned to you in an interview we did some time ago, my videos are very tightly packed. So whatever angle that you try to address it more than likely is going to fail.
You cover everything. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Like, oh my gosh. Like, and that's why I give you the respect that I give you. You know what I mean? Because you're not just on there looking for, your own set of rage bait. You're not just on there tossing things around. Yo, you are like a surgeon, my guy. Like you, like you don't miss anything. I love it. It's disgusting though. Oh my gosh. Have you ever had to like apologize to anybody? You ever got something wrong, or maybe someone said, damn, you were a little too harsh on me, or whatever the case? You ever had to apologize?
No, because most of the women that do respond to me, they're out the gate, they're just mad I did the reaction. So it's not really a conversation. I can tell like, oh, you just upset. And there's been a very small portion of women that like, you know what, that was actually really funny, and you broke it down really well. I don't like it, but respect is given because you did such a good job, and we had whatever interaction we had for that. But no, I haven't had to apologize, and if the time comes, I'll be more than willing to.
Got you. Have you ever had any women holler at you after you destroyed them? Because, in some weird way, when you put women in their place, they find that attractive.
Yeah, maybe not for the videos, but I think it does something to the audience per se.
Got
Some of the DMs
you.
I've gotten, I was like, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. Stuff that is just, to me, it's just quite odd. But yeah, the audience, it's more so the people that fall into that category.
Got you. What's your advice for young men trying to figure out masculinity in a world where they're getting mixed messages from everywhere?
If you have a father, that's your starting point. If your father's in your life, that is your starting point. And step number 2 is, how much do you respect your father for who he is, the way he's structured himself just as a man, the way he's taking care of the family, the way he raised you. put your own personal emotions to the side, but just evaluate or critique him, better yet, on just who he is as a person before he's your father. Um, this might come off a little contradictory, but stay offline. Stay offline. You're gonna get a better experience out in the real world. Go into every situation
Mm,
as a student. Become the best follower you can become, because eventually you graduate to become a leader. Because you can't lead if you never knew how to follow. So I think that, plus surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. If you can get a group of friends or whomever, and you guys have the same idea about what it is that you truly want in life and whatever that may possibly be out of dating, you're better off.
mm. That's what's up. Good stuff, man. Um, I would like for you to tell us maybe one of your wildest breakdowns that you've had, or wildest stories of a video that you had to, address on your Instagram.
Let me think about that. Wildest video. It was I did a video, but I did a video about a girl that did a story time about a date that she had. And the reason it resonated with me, because I ran into a similar situation. So I don't remember her story per se, but I remember my story. So if I'll tell that, and it'll kind of
Yeah.
come together. Um, I'm in college. I meet Instagram is everything at this point. Meet a girl online. We exchange numbers. Everything is great via text message. Set a date. At the time I was a server, so I was always working weekends. So I took the day. I took that Friday. If I'm not mistaken, it was a Friday. I took that Friday off just to go on this date. Now, if you're a server, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is prime days. That's where you make most of your money. So I take this day off because I'm thinking, man, this is gonna be promising. Like, she's attractive. We have a good conversation. This is gonna be good. Drive over to her house, pick her up. Everything is cool so far. And I'm like, hey, I got to stop at the gas station, get some gas, and we can head over to the restaurant. She said, okay, no problem. Get to the gas station, pump gas. I get in the car. We're driving to the restaurant. And I said, I'm sparking up general conversation. I'm like, how was your day? We drove for like 30 seconds. She didn't respond. So in my mind, I'm like, maybe she didn't hear me.
Right.
It happens. Sometimes I have, and I had the windows cracked, so I'm like, the wind's blowing. Maybe she didn't hear me, so I asked her again. So how was your day? And this time I looked over so I can direct my conversation to her. Same thing. She's just looking forward, and I'm like, okay, I know she heard me the second time. And after about a minute, she was like, oh, my day was fine. And I was like, wait, whoa, that was extremely delayed. I don't know what's going on, but okay. So I'm thrown off, but I'm like, I got to keep my composure. I don't know what's going on. Why is she so delayed with the response? I'm like, nothing occurred. Like, if I did something to you, then I would go, she don't want to talk to me right now. But you just got in the car. Your house is 5 minutes away from the gas station. We hadn't been around it that long. So I'm like, okay, whatever. We get to the restaurant. It's Friday. So, of course, the restaurant's packed. They're like, hey, it's going to be like a 30-minute wait or 30 to 45-minute wait. I'm like, cool. We sit in the lobby, and I'm like, okay, it's awkward now. Like, she's just dead silent. When we're texting, we got all this stuff to say, and I'm like, okay, as a man, let me try to get this going. So, and for the viewers, y'all can steal this, right? Y'all can steal this little game I created, and maybe it wasn't me. Maybe it wasn't me that created the game, but that's how I remember it. So we're sitting in this lobby, and I'm like, okay, it's dry. Let me do something. So I tell her, let's play a game. Let's try to guess which couple is on the first date when they walk through the door, based on their body language.
Mm.
Something that's a bit more interactive. We can go back off of one another, So she's like, okay. First couple comes in typical South Florida fashion. It's like a really young girl and a really old guy. And I was like, oh, hey, I know that's not a date. I already know what's going on. So I'm laughing. I look over her and she's just straight face, no emotion, no nothing. I'm like, I think this is a really good game, but I can't force you to play with me. Another couple comes in, they had a baby, so it's kind of clear, oh yeah, y'all been together. Before we can get to the third couple, they call us to our table. So they walk us to the table, and for whatever reason, they sit us at a table where the TV is literally right above me. It's like perfect line. The NBA playoffs is on, and I think this is like 2016, and Steph Curry is the man. And I love basketball, so I'm like, I'm on a date. I got to focus on her because it's disrespectful for me to take this girl out and I'm watching the game. But we're at the table and there's no conversation. Every time I try to say something, it's like one word answers. She's on her phone. I'm like, okay, at this point, I don't have nothing else to go off of. I'm gonna watch the game. And I'm one of those viewers that I'm very interactive. While I move, I'm like, ooh, whatever. Steph Curry is going off. And I'm so locked in. I forget she's sitting right in front of me. And all I hear is, if you wanted to watch the game, you could have did that at home. I said, okay, now we got something here. So now I'm like, well, I've been trying to interact with you all night. Like, you haven't been giving me anything. She was like, you haven't said anything worth talking about. Okay. In this moment, right? This is young me. In this moment, I have a lot of things going through my head. And I'm like, I should leave this girl right here in this restaurant. I should just get in my car and she'll figure her own way out. Because Uber's out and all that stuff. But I'm like, that's not the right thing to do, bro. Like, you still asked her out. So I get up, I go to the bathroom, I gotta gather myself because I'm like, man, if I don't take a breather, this is not gonna end well for the both of us. Long story short, I find a server that we had, and I remember, mind you, like I said, I'm in college. I ain't really got no money. I got like $100 and something in my account. I go to the server, I'm like, hey, let me pay for the tab. The tab was like $86 and change. And I don't get paid until the next week. It's Friday. No, I don't get paid till Saturdays, which is next day. But my like the way my budget was, I'm in the negatives. And I'm like, all right, instead of me splitting that bill, which in hindsight, I'm like, man, I should have split the bill because the way she played me was crazy. But I paid the bill. I go back to the table, and this game is just so good. I'm like, man, I don't care what she thinks of me at this point. This date is over.
Yeah.
So the game is over. I'm like, hey, you ready to go? She's like, yeah. We get up. We get in the car, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how to get to your house. Just put your GPS in and tell me, what turns to make or whatnot. She puts her GPS in her phone and she puts it on her lap, and she's just looking out the window. She's not telling me to go left. She's not telling me to go right. And so I'm having to drive and look over, and I'm like, okay, I think the turn is coming up. I make it to her house. She says, thank you, and just slams my door and walks out. And I'm just like, man, what did I do to deserve this treatment? Now, in correlation to the girl that I did the video on, she was real irrational with the guy. And I was like, you can't expect to go on a date with a man, not engage, but still expect to be entertained. I'm not a show monkey. You got to give me something to go
A
off
wind-up doll.
Yeah, like, well, what do you think is going to happen if you don't engage, if you don't reciprocate the energy? And I think a lot of times there are women that go on dates expecting to be entertained, to be wine and dined, where it's, you asked me to be here, I'm going to be here, but you got to pay for everything and you better entertain me. If I'm bored, then you're the problem. Not understanding this is a two-way street. I need you to engage in order for this, for both of us to enjoy this experience. But yeah, that was one of my worst experiences.
Yo, that was a good story, man. I'm so happy you shared that. So happy you shared that, and I'm sure a lot of people, men and women, watching this and that's gonna watch this could definitely attest to having an experience similar to that one,
Yeah.
man. So you know what I mean. And thanks for teaching us that game. Yeah. I got two more questions for you. As you were talking about that, it made me think about this too. Being in this era, in this space now, where women are going to the dinners, but they're giving the impression like they're having these experiences on their own when there's a guy on the other side that's, pretty much fitting the bill. But, they go on their social media and, show the food, or it could be the trip sometimes. And we're seeing a lot of slip ups even with the trips now when they're taking these videos, but you can see the reflection and and the sliding doors or whatever how damaging is that for not just the women who are given the illusion that they're creating this life for themselves. But how damaging is it for the men too, who are sitting there watching this happen and feeling as though, yeah, you ain't nothing, you know what I mean? Or like, like you didn't contribute to anything as far as the world sees it, you know what I mean? Like, what do you think of those type of scenarios?
It increases the delusion. It
Mm,
increases that desire that women have where they see another woman with something and they want it as well, where it's like, oh, she's on a trip and, you know, getting flued out and she's in a suite and all these great things, but never question what did she do to get there?
mhm,
Because if you know anything, most women are not spending that kind of money on vacation. You know, they either group up and they go one place, but on a single trip, I rarely ever see a woman get a suite, a woman flying first class. And I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm sure there's women out there doing it. I'm pretty sure. But on average, no,
right.
that's not happening. But yeah, it increases that delusion, and in turn, the women that are showing that lifestyle also understand because I have an audience, I got to keep this up. Because if I don't, they're gonna think I'm a fraud, which in turn makes them do more desperate things to receive that kind of treatment or receive those experiences. And that's where we can go down a rabbit hole of like what women do just to be able to have that bag or have that trip or have that dinner date with whatever guy that is.
Yeah, that part. Another side to that too is that sometimes we see women going on these girls trips, and this has been one of the most confusing things for me, right? Women who are actively looking for men and complaining that men are, there's no real good men and this and that and the other. But they're going on all of these girls trips, and I had to talk to one of my homegirl and says, like perception is reality. If men are seeing you go on all these girls trips, they're assuming that, yeah, that's what you're doing. That's what you want to do. You're not interested in them. You know what I'm saying? What's your thoughts on that?
Your dating life is reflective. The things you participate in will shape you as a person. And no matter what it is that you want to do, you can have everything you want, just not at the same time. Whatever it is, you can have it all, just not at the same time. And I think that's probably the biggest struggle that most women have, where they think, I can have the girl trips, I can have the family, I can have, nah, it ain't how that works. Something, you got to give up something in order to have the other. You can't be single and in a relationship. It got to be one or the other. So I think that's probably the biggest misconception that women have, that they can have it all, which they can, but just not at the same time. These things take up too much real estate in anyone's life to have all that. You would have too much on your plate to be able to, oh, I'm invested all this time in girl trips with my friends, but I also am a mother, I'm also a wife, I'm also an employee. That's just too much for anybody.
Mhm. That part. Final
Yeah.
question I got for you tonight, check. If you could make one thing about modern dating make sense overnight, what would that be?
I'd remove social media almost immediately. I'd and if it wasn't that, like you can't give advice about relationships. And given that would take, well, to some degree it would take away my platform as well. But I was this person before social media. I knew how much influence I had in the conversation I would have with people prior to me building the platform that I had. So it wouldn't bother me none personally. But yeah, I would remove social media in a heartbeat.
That's what's up, man. Hey, listen, man. Check. Thank you so much for taking the
My
time
pleasure,
to do
man.
this. I want you to hold on to the line. Don't hang up as yet, man. But it's been such a pleasure having you on. I want you to take an opportunity to let people know the different platforms they can find you on, or anything that you got going on personally that you just want to put out there
Yeah.
for the audience, please.
So yeah, I'm on all major platforms. This is Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Merch is coming on the way, as you can see. Hats, shirt,
Nice,
yeah.
nice.
That's been a long time coming. It's a lot of work. So I hope they like it when it finally does come out. No official date yet, but will be coming out soon. And I will be streaming soon as well. As soon as
Oh,
I get the final date,
nice.
yeah. But as soon as I get the final date for that, I will be sure to post it on all my major platforms. And of course, it's at self checkout, and the S for self checkout is the number 5.
Yep. So we got it right there on the screen. So make sure you jot that down and connect with the brother here from Haitian descent. We have a couple similarities in terms of how we moved. I interviewed him before, so I also would like for y'all to go back, and if you want to understand a little bit more about him, on a personal level, you could check it out. It's on my YouTube as well. You can go to In the Building section and you'll find his interview there. But he, North Miami Beach, Miramar, like it's crazy.
Yeah.
we have similar trottings. Obviously, I'm years ahead of him with those trottings, man. But we found so many different similarities, and he's just a cool cat, man. And I'm just gonna try to support him in any way I can. So, check when you get that merch and all that stuff going, man. Let's please reconnect on that and get your stuff going. All right.
For sure. Without
All
doubt.
right. For real. Well, we appreciate y'all. Hang on, check, don't hang up yet. But thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to tune in on Thursday, 9 o'clock. It goes down R&B therapy, nothing but classic R&B joints, music, no talking. Get your mind right, be vulnerable, relax, chill out, and get ready for a crazy weekend on a Thursday night at 9 p.m. with me right here, Papa Keith Live. Make sure you also follow Papa Keith Podcasts. .com. That's my website that has all of this stuff on there, man. So please make sure you bookmark PapaKeithPodcast.com. All right, y'all have a great night. Check, don't go nowhere.
Y'all keep the change.
There you go.